Welcome back to the channel. This is 20 Storm and you are watching 12th part of What If Naruto Mastered Ancient Shinobi Way. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Sadness was an emotion Naruto struggled with for the majority of his life, until he met his precious people. The sadness faded away day by day, until it was only a painful memory. But now he was sad again, but this time it was different from the sadness he had grown accustomed to as a child. Sadness is a wound that cuts beneath the skin. The severity of the wound is determined by the cause of the sadness. Naruto's earlier sadness was caused by loneliness, which nearly defined his entire existence. But now he was sad again, and this time it wasn't from loneliness. It was from loss. The loss of someone dear to him, someone who had been like the family he never knew he had, the one who had pointed him in the direction of greatness that first day at Konoha's hot springs. And the realization that another, who had practically raised him and helped bring his new family together, was about to die. How does one handle such news? Jiraiya had left, and Master Kyoshi was close behind. It left him feeling empty and useless, despite all of his strength and power. It did nothing to stop death and even less to stop the sadness that it brought. People like Orochimaru try their hardest to avoid it, to achieve immortality, but they, too, succumb to the clutches of death. Death comes for us all. We can only choose how we face it, whoever said. As Naruto sat in his home study, tears streamed down his cheeks as he gazed at a photograph of him and Jiraiya taken by Hinata soon after Arashigakure was founded. Tsubaki stood outside the door, giving him his space, and as she stood there, she felt movement to her side. As she looked around, she relaxed because it was only Hinata. Naruto and Hinata possessed the ability to walk without making any noise or causing any disturbance in the environment. The unsettling aspect was that they did it unconsciously most of the time. This time, all that indicated her presence were the silent but noticeable footfalls of the taller man next to her, the final member of the Juryu no Arashi. But it wasn't that loud. Fortunately, she had grown accustomed to it, and it even helped her train her perceptive abilities. Unfortunately, Naruto's sister had that exact same habit. "How's he doing?" Hinata inquired. "He misses Jiraiya-sama terribly," Tsubaki explained. Yes, Jiraiya-sama had a greater impact on his life than his own sensei on Team 7, she said softly before moving to the door and saying, "Wait here." Hinata easily entered the study and walked over to Naruto, who had his head on his desk. She approached him and placed a soothing hand on his shoulder. He was so engrossed in his grief that he didn't notice her presence until she made eye contact with him. Hinata-chan, he said, his eyes welling up with tears, "He's gone, and Master will be gone soon." "I know." Hinata drew him against her chest and let him cry on her for a long time. "Let it all out, Naruto-kun," she reassured him, "let it all out." Naruto eventually came to a halt and drew away from her. She wiped away his tears as she looked into his eyes. "It's a shame Jiraiya-sama wasn't made Hokage before he passed," Hinata said as she sat on his lap. Naruto began to laugh as she said this. "What's so amusing about Naruto-kun?" Hinata inquired. "Ero Sennin never wanted to be Hokage. He looked up to them, but he never thought he was right for the job," he said with a distant look. "Do you know what he admired most about the Hokages?" Hinata shrugged her shoulders. "How they perished." "How did they die?" Hinata inquired, puzzled. "He once told me that the true measure of a shinobi is not how he lives, but how he dies," Naruto sighed, "that it is what they do before dying that proves their worth, not what they do in life." Before Hinata could respond, Naruto continued. He thought nothing he did was significant, and his life was full of failures, But I guess that's what happens when you compare yourself to the Hokages. Hinata remembered him with a warm, gentle smile. I only hope he died with the honor that befits him. Then something happened that Hinata hadn't seen in a long time. Naruto's eyes and heart were rekindled. Naruto then stood up, followed by Hinata. He walked to the door, picking up his haori. Hinata inquired, "Where are you going, Naruto-kun?" "I'm going to make his final moment as memorable as any of the Hokages." Hinata smiled as she said this. "Then you should go to Tsunade-sama," Hinata said, and seeing his puzzled expression, she added, "Jiraiya-sama may have left something for you." Tsunade stood in the examination room, watching the results of Danzo's Sharingan arm DNA test. It would be an understatement to say she was disgusted. The DNA was unmistakably her grandfather's, and what sickened her the most was that she only knew one person who could do something like that, Orochimaru. "What other enemies have you made with Danzo?" she pondered. Naruto walked in and saw her expression in the Sharingan-covered arm on the table. "Is there something wrong?" he inquired. "That depends on your point of view," she says, picking up the arm, resealing it, and storing the sealing scroll in a simple wooden box, "but it turns out I was right. My grandfather's DNA was implanted into the arm, no doubt to capitalize on the Uchiha and Senju bloodlines' unique potential when combined." "I see," Naruto said, pretending to understand but failing miserably. "Anyway, Hinata-chan said Ero Sennin may have left something." "Yes," she said as she took a picture from her top. "He wrote a message but none of us could make heads or tails of it. What can you see?" Naruto took it and examined it. Tsunade eventually spoke up. "Did you notice anything?" "Well, except for that kanji, everything is just numbers." "What kanji are you talking about?" Tsunade's eyes widened as she ran over to his side to examine the image. "Right there, Ta. He made me read some of his rough works and every time it came to that kanji, it was a little confusing," Naruto said, pointing to the first number, which appeared to be a 9. "Now that you mention it, it does look like Ta," she said to Naruto, smiling. "I knew he left it for you." Naruto smirked and scratched the back of his head. "Where is Shizune-chan?" Naruto inquired. "She left with that metals expert," Tsunade said, blushing slightly. "He's got quite the look." "Do not tell me Ero Sennin taught you his ways, Tsunade no Ba-chan." Naruto initially laughed at seeing Tsunade sputter before becoming enraged at the suggestion that she was a pervert. "Watch out, Gaki," she warned. "You may be the leader of this village and have grown strong, but I would still kick your $1 all the way to Konoha, heal you, and then kick your $1 back." "Oh yeah," Naruto said emphatically, "I'd like to see you try, you old hag." "What did you say, you midget?" she asked, tick marks on her brow. "You heard me," Naruto said, his brow furrowed with the same number of tick marks. They began a stare-down competition, and sparks of electricity began to fly between the two. Nobody was willing to back down. Naruto despised being called short, even though he was no longer behind anyone in that department, and Tsunade despised being called old. Tsubaki appeared unsure what to do about it. On the one hand, it was a threat to Naruto's life, but on the other, she remembered Naruto and Tsunade being close. If they were truly about to fight, she would have no hesitation in supporting Naruto. However, in a room like this, where close combat tactics would be required, she would only be a hindrance because if two powerhouses like Naruto and Tsunade went at it, there would be nothing left. This difficult decision, however, was taken away from her as Naruto and Tsunade burst out laughing. "How are you doing, brat?" Tsunade inquired. "I heard your master doesn't have long to live, and from what Hinata told me, you two were very close." "Yes, he was a grandfather to Hinata and Akira, and for many years, our lives revolved around him. He and Ero Sennin saw something in me that no one else saw except Hinata and Akira. Iruka-sensei saw himself, Kakashi-sensei saw my father, and you saw your loved ones. Tsunade exclaimed in surprise. She didn't think Naruto would have figured her out. Jiraiya was always the one with more insight than the rest of the Densetsu no Sannin, she smiled. What did they see? She inquired. They saw me, he simply said before changing the subject. I assume you need to get back to Konoha as soon as possible to figure out this message? Yes, we'll be on our way as soon as Shizune gets back, she said. Shizune and Mataza walked in as she said this. When Mataza saw him, a broad smile spread across his lips as he gazed upon Naruto with hero worship. Most wonderful Kanshisha-sama, he said as everyone in the room began to perspire, it is most wonderful that I may look upon you today. Naruto scratched his chin and laughed nervously, but decided to get right to the point so he didn't encourage him any further. What have you learned about that strange metal? Naruto inquired. After several hours of research, I was able to successfully replicate it. Why and how would you replicate it? Tsunade inquired. Because his bloodline allows him to create metal bi-elements, Shizune explained. So that's why you're so good with metals. I thank you for your compliment, beautiful Hokage-sama, he said, making Tsunade blush, but my skill with metals is the result of hard work, and my bloodline does give me a better understanding than most. I can only manipulate a metal or alloy if I am familiar with it, and this metal is one I have never seen before. He continued, seeing that everyone's attention was on him. I needed to understand the metal in order to manipulate it, so I studied it for many hours until I was able to manipulate it, and now I can tell you everything there is to know about this metal. Really? Naruto exclaimed excitedly, don't keep us waiting, Mataza. At once, most wonderful Kanshisha-sama, he said, this metal is not strong, it is actually quite brittle, and it would be impractical to use for either close or long-range use. What distinguishes it, however, is its antenna-like effect. Can it broadcast signals? Chakra, actually, and it can work for quite some distance, he explained. That's interesting, Shizune. Didn't you say the body you examined had these as piercings all over his body? Tsunade asked. Shizune gave a nod. Perhaps Arrow Message Sennin's will be the final piece of the puzzle, Naruto speculated. Well, come on Shizune, we need to get this back to Konoha by morning, she said, turning to Naruto, and I'll have my people work on it while yours do. Please excuse my interruption. Naruto looked at her, puzzled, don't mind what? You are free to leave whenever you want. Tsunade drew her arms back and stared at Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto, you had better get me back to Konoha before I show you why I'm a legendary medic. On you. Naruto began to sweat at the threat, and he had no doubt that she could do exactly what she said. Kagesachi no Jutsu, he chuckled nervously before placing his hand in a seal. Naruto, Tsunade, and Shizune sank into the floor, only for Naruto to return moments later, alone, but holding a scroll bearing the Uchiha crest. Thank you for your help, Mataza, Naruto said as they walked out the door, and don't forget about tonight's meeting. There is no need to thank me, Kanshisha-sama. I am at your disposal. What is information to you? What is it to us? What are you willing to do to get it, and what are you willing to do to keep it? Said the shadowy figure of a woman, her piercing green eyes surveying the ninja in the room. Who are you and what are you discussing? Inquired an orange-haired girl with a fierce expression in her eyes. I'm glad you asked that question, she said, then vanished, only to reappear in the middle of the crowd, right behind Sasama, as she spoke into her ear, Fuma Sasama. Naruto-kun praised you highly. How did you? She wondered before realizing. You must be our new leader Naruto-sama told us about. That's right, she said, raising her voice, but none of you have yet responded. What are you willing to do to obtain information, and what are you willing to do to keep it hidden from others? There were murmurs and then someone shouted as she said this. Anything. That is the best answer, she said, because whatever you are willing to do to gain information, your enemy will do even more to keep it, and whatever you are willing to do to keep information from your enemies, they will do much more to get it from you. We already know everything. Why repeat it? You know it, but you don't understand. Many were offended. You can be offended all you want. But why do you think the majority of you here in this department are Chunin? That certainly opened their eyes, because Jonin made up only a small fraction of the intelligence department, and in a village where the overall population was small, being a small fraction of a fraction meant you could be counted on one hand. You know the risks, but you lie down and accept it foolishly, telling yourself that's the price we have to pay, she screamed angrily. But let me tell you something, it doesn't have to be that way. We will go get information when we need it, and we will not let outside forces steal from us. Let them pay the cost. How will we do it? Another ninja inquired. Intelligence is the most dangerous occupation for any ninja. That is why Kanshisha-sama assigned me to this department. He's done a respectable job for someone in his position, but I've been looking for the truth since my family was slaughtered. This is my life, she said, and after seeing her subordinates' expressions of awe, disbelief, and skepticism, she added, there will be some changes. Field agents and base agents will be divided into two groups. Field agents will handle external issues like espionage and infiltration, while base agents will handle counterintelligence, interrogation, torture, coding and decoding, and so on. You will, however, all receive the same basic training, while the advanced training will focus on the group you have chosen. As she finished her speech, they were all looking at her with either great respect or growing respect. There was something about her that drew them in. Now it is time to choose. There are two blank scrolls at the front of this room, blue for field agent and black for base agent. Write your name on the one you chose, she said before continuing. But before you do, know this, do not fail me, I will not tolerate any failure. If you do not complete your mission objective, you have failed me. If a member of your team dies, you have failed. If you are late, you have failed me. If you smell bad, you have failed me. If you fail yourself, you have failed me. If you are captured or allow a comrade to be captured, you have failed me. And if you die, you have shamed me. That's insane, exclaimed a ninja nearby the two scrolls. Unfortunately, he was not bright enough to grasp Akira's point, which he only realized when she approached him and jabbed a few spots on his body, leaving him paralyzed on the ground. My name is Uzumaki Akira, and when I'm done with all of you, we'll be so good that we'll be able to figure out what color pants the Mizukage is wearing without her knowing. That's impossible, a terrified ninja said after Akira's gaze fell on him, and no woman would ever let that happen to her. To his great relief, Akira began to laugh, but he was unnerved when he saw the look in her eyes that reminded him of the time Naruto led them into battle against the Earth Country's army. The look of someone who would steal the teeth from the mouth of a living dragon and get away with it. As of now, that word is forbidden, Akira said, surprising everyone as she smiled. The impossible is what a ninja does best. Now begin signing. As the sun set below the horizon, Hinata sat in a meditative position atop a still pool of water in a section of the ninja-only zone designated for special jonin like her, department heads, and the Jiryu. Next to the water's edge sat Itachi, who sat on the grass staring at how the water behaved to Hinata's commands. At first it was perfectly still, not even moving when she walked to. Hinata said softly, report. A traditionally dressed ninja emerged from behind a tree, walked to the pond, removed his face mask, and got down on one knee. Mission completed, Hinata-sama, the ninja said before giving a detailed oral report on her mission. Any mission above B rank was never recorded in the assassination department. These were assassinations of high-profile and powerful people such as daimyos, kages, village leaders, and the like, and their close and favored relations. For missions such as these, everything was done by mouth. A request would be put in secretly by the client directly to the head of the assassination department, Hinata, and she would assign ninja. Despite their efforts to remain as inconspicuous as possible, the assassination division gained a reputation for being the most efficient and lethal assassination unit because their victims never saw it coming and it never looked like a hired hit. In public, the members of this department looked like any other civilian or ninja. This mission was especially important because it was requested by the daimyo himself as the ninja reported his mission. Flashback. Shina Kabo was a well-respected man in the Whirlpool daimyo's court. He was a family man with 2 children and a beautiful wife. He was loved by the people and respected by his peers. He owned several businesses that flourished after the 2 countries merged, but this was all on the surface. Beneath the surface, he sold anything to anyone who could afford it or at lower prices to people who could not afford it otherwise. This went on for a while, and it would have continued if he hadn't begun to believe he had gained some sense of power that he could use without restriction. Greed blinded him, and he became foolish in his comfort, and it was because of this that he stepped over a line that he was careful not to cross. He sold information about the daimyo's castle and the location of the storm village to a foreign ninja, and it was. He took one of the buns and smelt it deeply, savoring the scent of his wife's cooking. He loved her cooking and dug into them without further delay. Halfway through the plate, he felt a sting on his shoulder. He quickly reached up to scratch the spot thinking it was an insect. However, his hand rested on a thin metal spike. He pulled it out and looked at it only to fall asleep moments later. A few hours later, he awoke in his bed, and when he reached for the spot where the weapon had struck, it felt as if nothing had happened, so he went back to sleep, noticing his wife by his side. Shina Kabo died in his sleep that night from a heart attack. Finish the flashback. Well done, Hinata congratulated. Do you have confirmation? Hi, said the masked ninja, who was clearly female, as she pulled out a tooth, a molar, to be exact, and a pathologist's report. Because the mission was to assassinate a member of the daimyo's court, a person who was known and liked, it could not in any way appear to be an assassination, but as a natural cause of death, and the collection of evidence of death. Once again, the Kitsumaru clan demonstrates their prowess, Hinata said as she stowed the items. You may depart now. The ninja vanished, leaving Hinata and Itachi alone once more. Itachi was intrigued. He had known Hinata as a child, and he had never imagined her as the commander of assassins, the blood-stained swords of the ninja world. Who would have thought Hyuga Hinata would be an assassin? Itachi wondered. Even I did not expect to be where I am, Hinata said, sensing his thoughts, but no one can predict the future. Indeed, Itachi said, but one thing I am certain of is that I must meet with Kanshisha-sama and the others. Itachi walked away from Hinata with a nod. They gathered in a dimly lit room in a large rock formation near the beach for the first time as they awaited their leader. The only one who could command them. Shigur, who was still wearing bandages, was animatedly talking to Mira while Mira petted Coco and pretended to listen. Mataza sat across the room from her, exchanging looks that indicated his displeasure with her. He was still hesitant to admit that she was beautiful, and her assertion that she was far more beautiful than his new girlfriend did not sit well with him. Jin, Riku, and Danjo stood in a darkened corner, discussing the new addition to the Dryu. These three were by far the Jiryu's most ordinary members. Meanwhile, Tanoko sat in the kneeling position, patiently awaiting Naruto and the others. When he looked up to a shadowy corner of the seal, he noticed Kanta. "Please, my friend, we should not be on the ceiling," he said. "We should all be patiently awaiting Naruto return." Sama's. Regardless, he was ignored and hung his head in defeat. Someone walked through the door a few moments later. The entrance was not an open doorway. In fact, the room was devoid of any doorways or windows. The only way in or out was through a seal that connected the room to another in the outside world, which was located where the ninja-only zone used to be. To enter, some blood would have to be smeared across the seal, followed by a specific set of hand seals that, because there were multiple seals, would transport the user to the exit. To leave, all one had to do was walk through the seal. When the other people in the room noticed this, they turned their attention to him. They immediately recognized him as the last dragon, Uchiha Itachi. Shigure left Myra's side, and because she was much shorter than him, she laced her fingers behind her back and looked at him with the curiosity of a curious child. "What's up with your sad face? You're among friends now, you should cheer up," she said. Itachi simply looked at her in response. She was in her early 20s, despite appearing to be in her late teens. She was far too old to be acting like a child. But as he looked around, he noticed that everyone in the room was strange in some way. This meant that, despite their laid-back demeanor, at least for the most part, this was a powerful gathering of ninja, and he would be foolish to judge any of them without first seeing what they could do. When he felt a presence behind him and noticed that most of the eyes were no longer on him, he turned around to see Naruto and Tsubaki, the last to arrive. "Nice to see you arrived on time, Itachi," Naruto said. "I hope Hinata showed you around the village?" "Yes, you have created a one-of-a-kind village and a one-of-a-kind ninja force. From you, I'll take that as a compliment," he said as he walked to a cushion on the floor. As he did so, the dragons moved behind their own cushions, which flanked Naruto's. On either side of Naruto, there were two columns. Naruto sat cross-legged on his, and everyone else, except Itachi, sat on their cushions in either Seiza or Anza potion. "Today, my friends, we have gathered here to share our information and keep each other updated, as well as to welcome the final member of the Jiryu no Arashi," Itachi said as he walked up the center of the two columns and stopped in front of Naruto before kneeling. "Uchiha Itachi." Riku came forward with a dagger as he did this. It was a beautifully crafted dagger with a black handle decorated with what appeared to be scales and a serpent-like dragon that appeared to be coiled around the blade. Naruto held the dagger's handle so that the blade's tip was pointing down over a pot of ink. "Remove the top half of your clothes and take firm hold of the blade so that your blood runs," Naruto and Itachi said. "Do you swear to uphold all the laws and codes of Arashi and use all your skill for the Kanshisha and the betterment and glory of Arashi? And do you swear loyalty to the Kanshisha and the Kanshisha only?" "I swear to God," he said, as the blood dripped rhythmically into the inkpot. Then, without warning, Naruto yanked the dagger from Itachi's grip, causing him to hiss slightly in pain. "May the pain in your hand bind your mind, and may the blood spilt on this dagger bind your soul," Naruto said, picking up the pot and stirring the ink and blood with the dagger before lightly carving a set of seals onto Itachi's exposed back like a tattoo, "and may this seal bind your body." Suhu no Setsuzoku, Bakudo Fuin. As Naruto moved the seal on Itachi's back, it formed a pair of twin dragons, one black and one white, coiling around each other along the center of his back. Itachi's eyes widened, his nails clawed against the polished wooden floor, and his teeth clenched, indicating that this was not an easy process. However, Itachi was not alone in this, because the other dragons were experiencing the same thing. Even though they tried not to show it, their pain was visible on their faces. What are you doing to Naruto-sama and me? Shigure inquired. It stings. It's okay, Shigure, Naruto said, his voice strained, showing that he, too, was in a lot of pain. It'll be over soon. It was over quickly, as he said, and the pain subsided. As Naruto released his hands from the final seal, Itachi and everyone else regained their composure. Welcome to the Jiryu no Arashi. Please take a seat, Naruto said, motioning to the last available seat. Now, the usual purpose for our gathering. Who would like to go first? I will, Kanshisha-sama, Riku said, because while you and Hinata-sama were bringing the Uchiha brothers back, I was able to locate and retrieve the bolt sword, Fang, and on my way back, I discovered something that would interest you. And what exactly is that? Rather, it's Hu, a boy with a rare bloodline, a jutsu he claims can block the Hyuga's Byakugan. That's intriguing, Fuma Danjo said, but where is the boy now? For the time being, he is in level 1 custody, awaiting Naruto approval. Sama's. Naruto inquired, how old is he? And, does he have any experience? He's about 11 years old and has no training other than how to use his Kekkei Genkai. How did you persuade him? Mira inquired, I hope you didn't steal him or trick him with candy. Ignoring her comment, he explained that he had been with the person who wielded the bolt sword, Kurasuke Raiga, a few years before, and when the Konoha ninja arrived, he no longer wanted to fight. Raiga saw this as a betrayal and ended up killing himself with a bolt of lightning. Even after years of trying to repay his debt, he still felt guilty, and people treated him like a criminal for what he assisted Raiga in doing. So, when Riku arrived, he led him to the swords and asked to take him with him to learn how to be a ninja. Riku, on the other hand, suspected something else. It was loneliness. After all, those who are lonely will seek attention and company from anyone. So, 4 swords from the 7 swordsmen and a new bloodline, Naruto exclaimed, it's been a very good week. I'd like to meet the young man. Hi. Alright, who's next? Permit me, Naruto-sama? Riku inquired, his voice trembling slightly. What exactly is it, Riku? What would become of the boy? If he is as unaffiliated as you claim and strong enough, I will admit him to the academy. I see, he said, then continued, as if finally persuaded, then in that case, should he prove worthy and capable, may I take him? How about as an apprentice? You shouldn't practice fatherhood on another like that, Riku-kun, Mira said, and Riku nodded. I have no objections. Your wife should welcome the company, especially since you were expecting a child. Thank you very much, Naruto-sama. Now, on to other matters, Naruto said as Mira caught his eye. Yes, Mira. I was unable to infiltrate a megacure, she said, and then, seeing Riku's mischievous expression, she quickly added, but I have a very good reason. Then please, Mira-chan, Riku smirked, enlighten us. This was a game they started playing with each other after Iwa's second invasion. They would try to belittle and humiliate each other whenever they could. Even the manner in which they addressed each other was an insult. I was able to save Jiraiya from the Sannin. Whatever she expected was not the dead silence that greeted her as she said this. What exactly did you say? Because I think I may have misheard you, Naruto asked, deathly quiet and with an edge in his voice. I said I rescued Jiraiya-sama from the Sannin on my infiltration attempt, a megacure. She'd never seen Naruto like this before. When the small breeze that always seemed to swirl around him and follow him around suddenly died, she and the others in the room became very wary, and when he talked, he could have stopped the heart of a lesser man. Was he alive? Naruto asked the question he dreaded asking. Hi. I took him straight to the hospital and came here from there when I got your summons. I see, Naruto said, tears streaming down his cheeks, thank goodness. Naruto remained in this position for a few more moments, each dragon understanding and averting their gaze to give him some measure of privacy as he shed tears of joy. Naruto then dried his eyes and returned to the matter at hand. Thank you for the opportunity, he said, is there any additional news? Mataza was the victim this time. It's about the metal you had me study, he continued, even though we can't interfere with the enemy's transmission of their chakra with my own, and even though the range isn't that far, now that I have the ability to create it, it can be used for some form of communication, but it would have to be implanted, and the one with the stronger chakra would always dominate. I see. Does that also apply to the Akatsuki leader, Pain? Yes, most wonderful Kanshisha, I am certain of it. That's very useful to know. Anyone else have any suggestions? Naruto said this after noticing Jin had something to say. After the younger Uchiha killed Orochimaru, I was able to retrieve his library of knowledge. However, I am not certain, but I believe Yakushi Kabuto may have beaten me to a few of the jutsu, of which I am unsure. I see, Naruto said, copy each of the jutsu and deliver it to Konoha. Maybe they can help us figure out which jutsu is missing. I'll leave when we're done, Jin said. Naruto looked around the room and noticed Itachi asking for permission to speak without saying anything. Naruto granted him permission with a nod of his head. As a former Akatsuki member, I am ready to reveal all information I have learned from them, he began, some of which you already know, and some of which will surprise you, including its true goal and true leader, Uchiha Madara. As used in Konoha. There was a sleeping person in Konoha, in a private room separate from the others. Some would describe him as a man, others as a boy, and still others as a traitor. He had a flawless face and raven black hair, and when he awoke from his long sleep, his eyes were the same color as his hair. When he opened his eyes, he noticed a woman wearing a medical uniform with short hair enter the room and quickly leave. He noticed she looked familiar, as did the entire room. After a short wait, his door reopened, allowing 4 people to enter, 3 women and 1 man. All of them looked very familiar to him, especially the male, whose silver, gravity-defying hair was unforgettable, and the woman with the pink hair and green eyes. But there was something different about her. He remembered her as a bright and cheerful person who was always happy to see him and would ask for dates. But she was looking at him differently now. He had no idea what those eyes were, what they meant, or why they were on him. He tried to sit up, but the blonde woman pushed him back down. I see you're awake, Uchiha Sasuke, Tsunade said, checking and recording his vitals. How do you feel? Like I just avenged my clan, he said, his smile half-hearted and devoid of genuine joy or satisfaction. How did I get here? I'm guessing this is Konoha. You are indeed in Konoha Hospital. You were picked up and brought back here after your battle with Itachi, Tsunade stated. It's a good thing, too, because you were on the verge of dying from chakra exhaustion. She then turned to Shizune, who handed her an envelope bearing the Arashigakure seal alongside a familiar spiral. Tsunade took them, handed them to Sasuke, and exited the room. But before she could leave, Sasuke called her name. Wait, who is this from what's going on? I only sense 2 Anbu and there are no restraints, he said, nothing out of the ordinary happenings. Aren't you going to arrest me or try to seal me away for betraying the village? You left the village, but technically you did not betray it. On the contrary. One could say you returned from a very long S-rank mission to eliminate Konoha's 2 most powerful missing nin, she said slyly, as if she wasn't telling him something, but if you want to know more, open that letter. You might learn something fascinating. She turned and walked out of the room, Shizune in tow. So, What are you two looking for? Expecting some kind of explanation or apology for doing what I had to do? Sasuke asked, looking at the other two people in the room. Kakashi only moved his book down and cast a lazy glance at his former student. What gives you the impression that I expected anything from you, Sasuke? The village may have forgiven you because you did it as a service, Kakashi said as he turned to leave, but I wonder, are you satisfied yet? As he walked away, Sasuke stared at him, his arrogance preventing him from taking his words seriously. A voice at his side, however, drew his attention. Sakura was staring right into his dark pools with her beautiful green eyes, which were probably the only thing he could stand about her. However, with his speed, skill, and reflexes honed from 3 years of training under a Sannin, you'd think he'd be able to avoid what happened next. You'd be mistaken, because he didn't see it coming when Sakura slapped him across the face so hard that his head almost twisted around on his neck. Welcome back, Sasuke, she said as she walked out of the room, leaving him alone. He said, HNN. He may not admit it, but that hurt more than his face. However, he ignored it and turned to look outside his window, where he saw Konoha, which brought back memories for him. He looked down into his hands again, this time at the letter, and knowing who it was from, he opened it.
All right, Dobi, Sasuke said as he pulled out the sheet of paper, what do you have to say now?
He then began to read. HQ and Secret Assassin Training Facility in Storm Village. The sun had set 2 hours before Suigetsu walked into one of the fenced-off areas of the ninja-only zone. He walked into the small house that served as the assassination department's headquarters, his zanbato strapped to his back. Suigetsu noticed that the inside was quite open, much like a dojo. The wooden floors were polished, and the walls were adorned with various weapons. There were 2 doors in addition to the entrance. Hinata's office was on the right, and another training room was on the left. What was less obvious was a hidden door leading underground. It was the records room, and it held the records of the missions that had been undertaken, either officially or unofficially. The official missions, or those that did not need to be hidden, were kept in folders and included the victim, client, or reason for assassination, the time, the execution of the assassination, and the assassin who carried out the mission. The unofficial files were simply artifacts of the person who had been murdered. Because the missions were very sensitive, there could be no record of them, so to show evidence of a successful mission, an inconspicuous trophy was collected from the victim, one that would prove that he or she was dead and would not raise suspicions that it was a hired hit. Another reason for keeping the records was to have blackmail material if the client ever decided to betray the village for whatever reason. Welcome to the assassination department, Hinata said from the other end of the room, where 2 rows of shinobi in black GIS formed a corridor between her and Suigetsu. You have chosen this path and entered this dojo knowing the risks, so there shall be no turning back from now on. Her voice, though soft and gentle, carried an undercurrent of authority and power. Suigetsu simply grinned as he removed the zanbato from his back and pointed it at Hinata. Who would do something like that? He laughed. Let's get this over with. Very well, Hinata said as the ninja took a step back and lined up along the walls. Suigetsu was perplexed when he saw this, but when he saw Hinata in a fighting stance, he began to grin even wider. So, this is my first test, isn't it? But it won't be fair if you start controlling my body like you did last time, he said, drawing his zanbato into a stance. This isn't a challenge or training. It's punishment for not knowing the rules, she explained, then added, but you're right, if I use that, you won't learn anything. So come on, I'll hammer the rules into you one by one. Hey, a girl like you can't hope to beat a killer like me without that ability, Suigetsu said as he charged with his zanbato, intending to decapitate her. Unfortunately, she easily ducked under the strike, and before he could reverse his swing, he felt a burning sensation in his gut, only to look down at Hinata's pupil-less lavender eyes staring at him blankly. He stumbled away from her, clutching his stomach, desperately trying to keep his lunge down. Rule number 1. Hinata said calmly as she faced him, never point a weapon at your comrades unless you're training, and never point a weapon at your superior unless you're prepared to challenge them or face the consequences. I have a mission for all of you before we all leave in 2 weeks, but first, let me explain your new seal. The Bakudo Fuin is known as Suhu no Setsuzoku. It allows us to find each other, see through each other's eyes, and summon each other. However, summoning should be used only in the most dire of circumstances and should not be abused. I've brought you the instructions. Remember, we are all bound together by this seal, including you as you act in my place, he continued. This mission I am assigning will be very different. You will go to each of Orochimaru's bases and try to recruit as many of the individuals there, but make sure they can be trusted, otherwise they are of no use to us and must not set foot within the walls of Arashi. I have instructed Karen to assist you all with any and all information because she is the one who is most familiar with Orochimaru's bases. We will adjourn if there are no further questions. Naruto stood up and, with Tsubaki close behind, dashed for the hospital via the portal. After he left, the 9 remaining dragons said nothing but let out a breath they weren't aware they were holding. For a split second, I thought I was going to die, Mira admitted. I thought you were for a second. Riku replied. Mira fixed her gaze on him. Flashback. Konoha, a few hours after Sasuke woke up. Uchiha Sasuke lay in his hospital bed, contemplating the letter he still clutched in his hands. The thing about time is that having it made you think about everything, not just 1 or 2 things, and Sasuke had plenty of time to think about everything. He didn't feel as accomplished or happy as he expected to after killing Itachi and avenging his clan because his mind was on someone else. He wondered if he could ever betray that again after returning to Konoha with almost all of his transgressions forgiven. Ordinarily, he would not think twice or care about it, but Naruto's letter made him think, and for the first time in a long time, Uchiha Sasuke was at a loss for what to do with the rest of his life. He was so deep in thought that he didn't notice the person who entered his room unexpectedly. To be fair, even the best censor would have missed his entrance. So, what are you thinking about? Asked the person. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise, but he held his gaze to the side where the person was. We've met before, as enemies, the masked stranger said as he approached the foot of his bed, but don't worry about what happened with Deidara, I'm no longer your foe. Sasuke's glare dimmed, but he never took his gaze away from him. I came to tell you something important, but since you don't seem to be interested, I'll say it this way. It's about Uchiha Itachi. Sasuke seemed to notice. There we go. Let me begin by introducing myself. He started to remove his mask. I'll keep this brief because it's not where I'd prefer to do it. I am a living breathing Uchiha, and I am the only person who knows the truth about Uchiha Itachi. As the mask was being removed from his face, Sasuke noticed the Sharingan spinning in his eye, proof of his ancestry. However, when he saw the Sharingan in Sasuke's left eye morph into the Mangekyo form and begin to bleed, the man's eye widened. Unfortunately, the black flames were not powerful enough to cause significant harm to the man, who quickly replaced his mask and discarded his cloak. What in the world was that? As the Mangekyo faded and Sasuke rubbed his eyes, he asked himself. It appeared that when Itachi died, he transferred his Sharingan powers to you as a failsafe. I assume he set it up so that the sight of my Sharingan would activate Amaterasu, but he only got as far as the fail part, the man explained. But it was supposed to be much stronger, the masked man wondered. What are you talking about? Sasuke asked. Why would he do such a thing? Of course, to protect you, the man replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Sasuke didn't appear to agree. Sasuke threw off his covers and activated his Sharingan, his face twisted with rage. Who was this moron to think a monster like Itachi would do something so human? Something a person would do. Something the brother Sasuke once saw him as before that fateful night long ago. Sasuke had long since convinced himself that Itachi was only his blood brother and that everything prior to the massacre was a lie. After all, how else could he bring himself to murder his beloved brother? He may have claimed that he spared Naruto on a whim, but the truth was that Sasuke could not bring himself to kill the people he cared about, and if he had cared for Itachi the way he once did, he would never have done everything he did to kill him. Can you protect me? Is that supposed to be funny? Said Sasuke, dazedly repeating the words. As I previously stated, you know so much about your brother, yet you know nothing. Sasuke's teeth were clenched. This man said things that contradicted everything he had believed in for the majority of his life. Things for which he had sacrificed everything. Keep fucking with me, and I'll kill you, Sasuke said calmly but seriously. I see that talking with you will be difficult. However, it is understandable. Some strangio appears out of nowhere and begins saying all these shocking things, the man explained, but I assure you, it is all true. You inquired of Itachi about the person who assisted him that night. Sasuke remained silent, but his gaze was fixed on him. The man interpreted this as confirmation and permission to proceed. It was me, Uchiha Madara. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise as he said this. I know everything there is to know about Itachi. Of course, he died not knowing just how much. Sasuke was at the end of his rope as he clenched his sheets. His own emptiness wanting no more of his own self-imposed hell. However, the words in Naruto's letter helped to calm him down. I don't care anymore, he said, fists clenched against his sheet and eyes tightly shut. Go away and never come near me again. I believe you should. No, you must question me. You need to know about him. This man who risked everything to protect the Shinobi world. The Leaf Village, and most of all his little brother, Madara said to the boy who was still clenching his sheet. You must be familiar with Uchiha Itachi's life. Madara was about to continue when he heard footsteps, no doubt from a nurse or medic checking on him for the morning. It appears that my time is drawing near, he said as he stood over the charred remnants of his cloak, but consider what I have said and you will understand why Itachi implanted Amaterasu into your eyes. Take your time, I'll be back after sundown. Madara's eye narrowed as he was about to activate his teleportation technique when he noticed the letter in Sasuke's other hand. The symbol on it was what caused this. He was becoming overly familiar with that symbol, and not in a good way. Damn that boy, Madara thought as he was drawn into his portal. He got Itachi's body first, and now Sasuke. Hopefully I can persuade him to my side before his mind is made up. Madara understood the power of words. After all, he had taken over an entire organization and defeated some very powerful villains using only the power of his tongue, and occasionally his Sharingan. This is why he considered people like Orochimaru to be extremely dangerous. Although Orochimaru was not a serious threat because he lacked his experience. However, two things bothered him. One was Sasuke's Amaterasu's weakness, and the other was the letter from the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. He suspected Itachi had not died and was still alive and well in the care of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, but as long as Sasuke believed he was dead, he could still achieve his objectives. He could transform Sasuke into the Avenger he was meant to be, assisting him in obtaining his Mangekyo and eventually making it more powerful. However, if he did and Sasuke was swayed to the Jinchuriki's side, someone with whom Madara was aware Sasuke had bonds as a Konoha shinobi, he could end up with a formidable foe. To make matters worse, Madara was unable to inform Sasuke that Itachi was still alive in order to turn him against the Jinchuriki because he would not feel any grief for killing him, preventing him from awakening his Mangekyo. His mind is still hazy, Madara reasoned, but there is still time. Flashback conclusion. As Uchiha Sasuke lay in his hospital bed with the letter from Naruto clenched tightly in his hands, the sun had vanished beneath the horizon and visiting hours had ended some time ago. Anyone else would think he was deep in thought, and they would be correct. The letter's words had left him with a unique perspective, and despite Madara's shocking words, they had not swayed him, but after reading that letter, he now began to doubt his entire life's purpose, to recreate his clan and kill a certain man. He had murdered that man, but he was still alone. He thought killing Itachi would make things better, but all he got was emptiness. He brought up the letter again and began reading in the hopes of finding an answer. He cursed the name of the one remaining person who knew him better than anyone else, better than even a brother, as he began to read. "You're a jerk, Naruto." The correspondence. Dear Sasuke, if you're wondering why you're not dead or on the chopping block, you can blame it on me. To think, after fighting your brother to death, you nearly killed yourself, but then again, not even the devil wants a jerk like you. But, on a more serious note, it's been almost 3 years since you abandoned us. We were not a blood family, but the loss of a brother hurts just as much. But now I understand what I didn't understand before. You were a child with 2 goals, to rebuild your clan and to assassinate a certain man. When I first heard that, I was concerned that you were referring to me. The point is that, no matter how good Itachi was, he couldn't have done it on his own. Will you still seek vengeance by tracking down and killing this person? What if, after killing this person, there is someone or something more? Something deeper? Would you then spend the rest of your life killing all those who have wronged your clan and all those who stand in your way? What if you went after and killed everyone who had wronged you or stood in your way? What if you died vengefully avenging your clan? Who will then rebuild your clan? Wasn't that the first goal you mentioned when Team 7 first met all those years ago? However, by that point, it will no longer matter, you will no longer matter, Itachi will no longer matter, and the Uchiha will no longer matter. Because you will no longer be an avenger, a ninja, or even a human being. You will simply be a very talented and lonely murderer. Your ally. Naruto. I'm even more alone than before, he grumbled. What do you know that I don't, Naruto? He was so engrossed in his thoughts that he didn't notice a man in a mask with a single eyehole appear from thin air until he touched the ground. Even if Sasuke had been paying attention, it would have made no difference. Why have you returned? Sasuke inquired of the man. I have no desire to hear your nonsense. Though the words were powerful, the manner in which they were delivered and the look in Sasuke's eyes told a different story. I already told you, the man said, it is your responsibility to question me in order to learn the truth about Itachi. Sasuke's face contorted in rage for a split second before returning to its normal emotionless state. He then cast a cold stare at the man in the mask. The truth, huh? Sasuke finally conceded. Fine, if it at least gets rid of you, I'll listen. So, what is the real story behind Itachi? Sasuke would have seen the man smile a most dark and sinister smile, as if a great piece of some evil puzzle was about to fall into place if it hadn't been for his mask. But first, in order to tell you the story of Uchiha Itachi, I must go back in time. As Naruto entered the room, it was dimly lit. The sound of the door contrasted sharply with the beeping of monitors that rang out every few seconds. Naruto approached the bed, slightly concerned about the condition of the man he regarded as a favorite uncle. He recognized him when he saw him, but he did not recognize this man. It resembled Jiraiya, but the Jiraiya he remembered was always full of life, with childlike mischief bubbling behind those lecherous eyes. Even when he was fighting for his life, his unbreakable spirit shone through. But this man couldn't be any different. All of the color had faded from his skin, he appeared tired, and Jiraiya, the toad sage of Myoboku Mountain, appeared old for the first time. "What the hell did you get yourself into, Ero Sennin?" Naruto inquired, not expecting an answer, "And why didn't you tell me or ask for help?" Naruto sighed as he observed Jiraiya, who lay motionless in his bed. "When I found out you were dead, I felt a pain like nothing I'd ever felt before, like a stabbing pain in my heart that just keeps burning the more I think about it," Naruto said, his voice gradually becoming more pained as he spoke. "That must be how it feels to lose family. But then I remembered, it was what you wanted, to die an honorable death worthy of any Hokage." Naruto smiled, "And you were one lucky bastard, because you did and then lived to prove another day." Naruto stood up, walked over to the bed, and took a closer look at his teacher. "You did great, Jiraiya-sensei. The information you got is helping us figure out this pain character, and we're really close, just one more piece, and when he makes his move, we will be ready for him," he said as he walked out of the room, but before he left, he looked over his shoulder one last time and said, "Just leave it to us, you have left this world in good hands." With that, he left the room, but a small smile spread across the sage's face after he was gone. Naruto, Hinata, and Akira stood in his office, each dressed in traditional kimonos in dark colors, alongside the three counselors. It was the morning of the third day, and it was time to pay one last visit to Master Kyoshi. "Are you certain about this, Naruto? I understand that this is your master, but as the Kanshisha, you cannot be out of the village this frequently," Shibuki inquired. "I agree," Megan Tosuke added, "but bring Tsubaki-chan as your usual guard." "I appreciate your concern, honorable advisors," Naruto started, "but there is no need because where we are going no outsider can follow because there are only two ways there and the other way has been lost for years." "I see, but who will look after the village while you are away?" Shibuki inquired. Naruto's eyes twinkled as he looked at him. Shibuki paled as he saw this, and Tosuke smirked. "No, absolutely not," Shibuki stated emphatically. "I'm still healing from the last round of paper cuts." After saying this, the crazed look in his eyes faded as he noticed the look in Naruto's eyes, and he realized what he had just done. He'd just been disrespectful to the village chief. Despite the fact that an advisor was given some privileges to speak openly to the Kanshisha, the manner in which it was said was completely unacceptable. Shibuki bowed lowly and apologized, but just as he was about to accept the position, Hinata stepped forward. "It's fine, Shibuki-san," Hinata said gently, "since Naruto-kun will be the only one away due to his training with the toads, I will take charge when I return." She then turned to face Akira. "That makes sense, given that we'll be back no later than this evening." "Now that that's taken care of," Naruto said as he finished the Kagesachi no Jutsu that swallowed him, Hinata, and Akira into the ground. 8 of the 10 dragons waited for their comrade at Arashigakir's gate. They didn't have to wait long before a man in his 30s arrived at the gate, accompanied by a young boy of about 13. Some of the gathered ninja looked at the boy with curiosity, while others laughed. The boy returned his gaze to the gathered ninja. He felt the power radiating from the group, which made him feel very small. Shigure noticed his expression and placed a hand on his head. "You're probably Renmara-kun, Riku Nusan's apprentice. You're lucky, he's really strong," she continued as she noticed his nervous expression. "Don't worry, they're not as scary once you get to know them." The boy seemed to brighten up as he nodded in response to her upbeat tone. "Why yes, "Thank you," the boy replied, "and what is your name, Ne-san?" However, before Shiger could respond, Riku's reprimanding tone cut in. "Renmara, despite Shiger's appearance, she is a Jiryu no Arashi member, so you must show proper respect," he said, to which Renmara quickly bowed and referred to her as Shiger-sama, "and you Shiger, do not encourage him with your childish antics." Shiger simply pouted and stuck her tongue out at him. Those watching the exchange simply laughed or ignored it because Riku and Shiger's personalities were diametrically opposed, and as a result, they did not always see eye to eye. As a result, he was the only one who could get under her skin, and she was the only one who could get him to speak more than usual. However, Mira asserted herself before things could progress any further. My, aren't we in a good mood today, and such a cute boy," she began leaning over. "So what is this fool doing bringing along fresh meat like you on such a dangerous mission?" "There is no need to worry about my apprentice Mira," she said before giving him a mischievous look, "although I never thought you for a cradle robber." Mira flushed, but recovered quickly enough. "Hardly. I like my men more substantial and not having to carry around big swords to compensate for something, Mr. Nodashi," she said, adding, "Besides, I just came over to ask about our final colleague." Riku sighed, vowing to retaliate for her remark about his manhood. "He claims to have some family business to attend to, as well as not yet being cleared for mission due to medical reasons." "I see," she reflected. "Oh well, I guess we should go." The group then left, leaving Shiger at the gate waving them off. "Master," Renmara asked as he didn't see Shiger following them, "isn't Shiger Ne-sama coming as well?" "Not this time, she, too, is not fully healed," he said, looking at Mira who was walking beside him, "and I suppose I should introduce you more properly and explain." Riku turned to face his master, his gaze fixed on Mira. "The Kanshisha has assigned us a critical mission. Each of us is responsible for recruiting as many trustworthy ninja as possible from the fallen Otogakure no Sato. According to the information provided by Karen, each of us has been assigned one of his hidden bases. However, I will be paired with Mira-san because the one we will be taking is likely the most dangerous of his bases." "Master?" he asked, perplexed. "Don't relax your guard, little boy," Mira teased. "Karen claims it was the site of all of Orochimaru's human experiments. To put it another way, we're going monster hunting. Returning to Arashigakure. Except for Shiger and Itachi, all of the dragons were assigned to the base hunt. It wasn't that Itachi couldn't be trusted, or that Shiger couldn't handle the mission's demands. Shiger was a dragon for a reason, and Itachi could be trusted. The real reason they weren't assigned to the mission was that they hadn't fully recovered from their injuries, though Itachi was much closer to doing so than Shiger. So, with time on his hands as one of the village's 2 remaining dragons, he decided it was time to pay a certain someone a visit. He approached the door and knocked with a deep breath. This had to be done regardless, but a part of him was hoping that the mean he was here to meet would be out. However, Itachi would have no such luck because, just as he was about to turn around and leave because no one was home, he heard footsteps from within. "What exactly do you want?" "You are the last person I would expect to see at my doorsteps, Itachi," the voice said, clearly suspicious. "I understand your mistrust in me, cousin," Itachi said, "but I have come to make amends." "Can you make amends? How do you intend to make amends?" The voice sounded suspicious. "May I enter?" Despite the unexpected request, the door was opened. Most people would think it was stupid to open the door to let Itachi in, but any wise person would know that a door cannot keep a ninja out, least of all Uchiha Itachi. It would be better to open the door and see what he wanted because if he did want to kill him, he was doing a poor job, and Uchiha Itachi was not known for his deception. Kuga Kai was standing in the doorway as it opened, looking at his cousin with calculating black eyes. "How are you planning to make?" Itachi went on his knees and placed his forehead on the floor before he could finish his sentence. "Please forgive me for my actions against the clan." Kai simply stood there, stunned, as one of the world's most powerful shinobi prostrated himself on the ground before him, pleading for his forgiveness. He quickly returned to his senses, however. He couldn't take seeing him like this any longer. Itachi was not the unbreakable Itachi he remembered. "Stand up, Itachi." The Uchiha clan chose their fate through their treachery, and for me, he got down on his knee and placed his hand on his cousin's shoulder, guiding him to raise his head. "You never did anything that would require my forgiveness, as I have not been a Uchiha since they threw me away. I've changed my name to Kuga Kai." Kai then sighed and picked Itachi up from the floor, ordering him to follow him inside. However, it appears that our Uchiha blood manifests in more than just our eyes. "What do you mean? Have you unlocked your Sharingan?" Itachi inquired. "No, and I probably never will," Kai said flatly. "What I mean is that whatever our clan does or gets into always ends in disaster for others." Itachi looked at him with understanding, but urged him to keep going. After being fully accepted by the Kuga clan, we were attacked by Orochimaru and his ninja. We fought back as best we could, but we were caught off guard and betrayed from within, Kai said bitterly. In the end, we were unable to push him back, so they saved me so that the Kuga, their ways, customs, and jutsu, would survive and thrive through me. "You should not blame yourself," Itachi said, explaining that Orochimaru's greed knows no bounds. "But now, even though I have left the Uchiha name behind and have no intention of ever awakening my Sharingan, my Uchiha blood, and the past of a blood-soaked and disgraced shinobi clan still haunts my existence," he said bitterly. "Why must I continue to go through this?" "Despair?" Itachi elaborated. "Yes, despair," he admitted. "Tell me, Itachi, how do you deal with this curse?" "I've learned a lot since meeting Naruto-kun, one of which is to never give up no matter what, and for someone like me, who had it easy, I couldn't understand that concept." Itachi smiled, "but he showed me, and now I have a second chance." "You must not abandon Kai. If despair is the stick that you use to beat yourself with, then use that same stick to pull yourself back up." "What do you mean?" Kai inquired. "Even if you deny it, you are still a Uchiha, at least by blood. But instead of intentionally setting out to make despair, take the despair and sadness from others as your own, use it, and become stronger," he said in a tone that clearly showed Itachi knew just how much a curse it truly was. "I'm not sure I can, let alone teach any children I might have in those ways," Kai said. Then his head snapped up as an idea flashed through his mind. "How about you join me then?" "Surely you're not inviting me to," Itachi said. "Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing," he said as he rose to his feet. "Uchiha Itachi, I as clan head and sole clan member of the Kuga clan hereby invite you to join my clan." Itachi paused for a moment, then a small, sad crack of a smile appeared on his face. "I'm worried about my brother, but if everything goes according to Naruto plan, Kun's he and the Uchiha clan will be fine." "I cannot return," he said solemnly, "but if you want this cursed man, I accept." Kai quickly slit his palm in Itachi's palm, and then they clasped their hands together and held it tight so the blood mixed. "The Kuga clan is born anew today, and with a new symbol, we shall make great strides," he said. "May our despair bring hope for the future. May our adversaries never forgive us." Itachi added as they let go of their hands. Back in Konoha, the hospital was in uproar after a medic discovered, while making rounds, that the newly reacquired Uchiha Sasuke had left his room and was nowhere to be found. The discovery was made in the morning while certain hospital personnel were making rounds. One Chunin, deciding that Tsunade should be informed of the situation, was barreling down the Hokage Tower's halls toward her office. When he arrived at her office, he burst through the door, ignoring all manners in light of the situation. "Hokage-sama," he said loudly, "Uchiha Sasuke has escaped yet again." He might not have made such a fool of himself if he had taken the time to pay attention to his surroundings. Because there was none other than the escapee, Uchiha, in the office with her. The Uchiha, who was sitting in front of Tsunade at the desk, simply turned around and glared at the Chunin, causing the man to flinch. Tsunade groaned. "It's fine," she said, "as you can see, I'm in a meeting with him, so please excuse me." "Of course," he said, bowing, "I will also call off the search." The man bowed and exited, closing the door behind him. "If I was able to get away from them and get to you so easily, your Anbu needs training," he said as he turned back to Tsunade. "Don't be a moron. As for my personal security, I told you we made it look like you did this village a favor, and you are pretty much a celebrated hero right now." She leaned back in her chair. "They were told to let you in. It's not like you were trying to hide from them." Sasuke grunted and nodded, then looked up at her with a critical gaze. "So you treat your heroes by stationing Anbu guards in my hospital?" he inquired. Tsunade's eyes seemed to widen for a brief moment, which Sasuke captured. The words of Madara rang in his head at this point, but before he could draw any conclusions, Tsunade's eyes narrowed dangerously at something very far away. Sasuke realized that she was unaware of this. "Be careful, Sasuke, you're making me think you're a loyal Konoha shinobi," Tsunade said with a smirk that surprised Sasuke. "I can't read her," he realized. "Besides," she added solemnly, "I told you already, it's up to you what you do next. I did not place any type of guard in your room." Sasuke gave her a cautious look, trying to discern any lies, but he couldn't find any. Sasuke learned how to tell lies from truth after being trained for 3 years by a treacherous snake. He wasn't Hyuga, but he was experienced. So he accepted her words with a nod of his head and a close of his eyes. "Did you come to see me for this?" Tsunade, irritated with the boy, inquired, "Because if you did, then stop wasting." "It's not," Sasuke interrupted, "I came to ask a favor. You betrayed your village to go to its most hated traitor, causing serious injury to Konoha ninja as a result and almost killing your own teammate as a result, and you have the audacity to come here and ask for a favor?" She began in a deadly quiet tone. "Give me one good reason why I shouldn't break every bone in your body in retaliation for your arrogance." Sasuke felt genuine fear for the first time in a long time. He had always wondered why Orochimaru was always so wary of his former teammates. Despite having no respect for the man, Sasuke will admit that if Orochimaru had not been on his last legs, he would not have stood a chance against him, but he had at least thought that Orochimaru was being a fool to be hiding from his other teammates all the time. But now he understood why he was always wary. He had seen Tsunade angry at Naruto before, but it was always just irritation, as siblings would irritate each other, but Sasuke saw a new side of her today. Senju Tsunade, one of the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary medic and Godem Hokage, was not the Tsunade he had always known as a villager. He would proceed with caution from now on, because she was a medic, and having stayed with people like Kabuto, he knew what a medic could do. Despite this, he managed to maintain his expressionless mask. But he was aware that if he didn't respond to Tsunade, she might kill him. So, in order to get what he desired, he had to give something up. "Last night, a man came to see me. He told me some shocking things about Konoha, my clan, and my brother." Sasuke told her the man's story about the village's origins, the Uchiha coup attempt and the circumstances surrounding it, and the night his clan was slaughtered. Tsunade was sick inside as she listened to all of this. I can tell by the look on your face that the elders didn't tell you anything. It's understandable that they'd want to keep something like this from getting out, Sasuke said, a single tear escaping his eye, but normally, I'd have used this opportunity to exact revenge on this village not only for my clan, but also for my brother.
After hearing that story, I'm wondering why you haven't gone looking for them, Tsunade asked, understanding the young man's predicament.
When he heard this, Sasuke reached into his sleeve and pulled out a letter with a familiar clan crest on the front, saying only one word. He wrote some things here that made me think, Naruto, Sasuke explained, but it doesn't contain all the answers. That is why I came to you for help. Very well, Tsunade conceded, what is this favor you seek, but remember, I cannot grant you anything you desire. Sasuke understood what she meant, so he nodded and went on. I'd like to meet with Naruto, he stated unequivocally. Tsunade raised an eyebrow in response. The fact that you are asking rather than simply doing what you want is suspicious, Sasuke, Tsunade said, do you intend to restart? It depends on what I find out from Naruto. I see, Tsunade said, realizing he was in a state of confusion and that Naruto was the only one who could provide the answers he required. I will see what I can do, but Naruto is a very important ninja, the leader of his own village, with many loyal subordinates and even more powerful allies. Because of his past, the people of his village do not take kindly to the people of this village, and if you cause an incident, we will be forced to hand you over to them. I suppose nothing can ever keep the Dobi down. I won't cause any trouble. All I want is to talk to him, he said with a smirk and a fond look in his eyes, and then, as if remembering something, he continued, besides, I have a feeling he wants to talk to me as well. What gives you that impression? Did he mention it in his letter? Tsunade inquired. No, but we were each other's first friends, and I guess I was unable to break those bonds, Sasuke said, his face unreadable, making Tsunade smile, but it looks like you understand where I'm coming from. Yes, but since it appears that you have made up your mind, Sasuke was about to say, but was cut off by the look in her eyes, I'm going to give you an assignment. You are to be my bodyguard from now until I deem you trustworthy. Very well, he said matter-of-factly. He understood why this was happening and could see the logic behind it. If he betrays the village, the most powerful ninja in the village will be there to put him down. Not to mention that she would be right there watching him all the time. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer, as the old adage goes. For the time being, he would follow her rules. Unopposed, Naruto, Hinata, and Akira entered the house. Why should they be opposed? They were not strangers to this place, and there was only one resident who would not refuse them entry. They made just enough noise to alert him to their presence and to demonstrate that they had not forgotten their training and that they were allies. They knelt before the shoji door. Your students, Uzumaki Naruto, Hyuga Hinata, and Suka Akira have returned, Master, Naruto began. Before everything went quiet, they heard a light shuffle. They heard him say, enter. As they entered the room, they could tell the old man didn't have much longer to live and was barely hanging on. The specter of death hung heavily in the air. It has been a long time, Naruto-kun, Hinata-chan, he began in a slow drawl they could understand. I trust you are doing well and adhering to my teachings? Yes, Master, Naruto replied. I use them on a daily basis to guide me as well as to raise the young ones who are now in our care. Oh? Young ones? He inquired of Hinata, has it been that long? No Master, Hinata blushed, that has not yet occurred. What Naruto-kun meant was that we established our own village, and that through your teachings, we are instilling in them the skills and virtues of true ninja. Ah, I see, he coughed. Well, I believe it is time. They helped the old man sit up with the assistance of Naruto and Akira. To a ninja in need, there is no shame in accepting assistance, especially when it comes from those you considered family rather than allies. An outsider might have called him a hypocrite for claiming to be a true ninja while displaying weakness, but one thing he had taught them was that the ninja code was guidelines, not rules, that should be followed carefully and not blindly. A ninja must not cry in front of an enemy or potential enemy, but a shinobi must also find ways to deceive his enemies. Most importantly, there was no need to kill your emotions or humanity. You simply had to hide it for a while, and any true ninja could turn his heart on and off as needed. He started speaking now that he was sitting up. Even though I have trained each of you into very powerful, strong, and wise ninja, only one of you may lead. He paused for a breath. Even though I have trained each of you into very powerful, strong, and wise ninja, only one of you may lead. I have given this much thought, so please do not hold any grudges. This is truly the best option. Before speaking again, the old man took a moment to catch his breath. You are the oldest of the three, Akira. You took it upon yourself to care for a boy who would have died if you hadn't intervened. You had no obligation to do so, but you did. Yes, I knew all along, from the very first time I met you, I knew what dwelled in your heart, but you have grown, in a most wonderful way, Akira exclaimed. Even though you are the oldest, you are not as strong as your siblings, but you have proven to me that you can hold your own with them and, more importantly, that you have no ill will toward them and continue to seek their betterment. The fact that you saw Naruto and Hinata's true selves has proven to me that of the three of you, you have the greatest gift of persuasion. You've come a long way, and I'm proud of you. I owe it all to you, she said, her eyes welling up with tears. Before continuing, the old man coughed and took a few deep breaths. Hinata, you grew like a flower, sheltered and shy, afraid to reveal your true self to the world, but then you blossomed into the beautiful and dangerous rose you were always meant to be. Always remember that you were never weak. All you had was a large useless weight that has now been removed, and you will continue to thrive. However, never lose sight of your heart, a heart that is gentle and strong, and unwavering in its conviction. Hinata bowed in acceptance of her master's words, tears streaming down her cheeks. Most people evaluate potential based on demonstrated strength, power, and intelligence, Naruto. However, a person who lacks all of these characteristics may have more potential than any genius who has ever walked the Earth's surface. This is due to the fact that true potential is not always apparent. You, who had no talent as a ninja, are on your way to becoming the greatest legend, but I can tell you that your full potential has yet to be realized. After seeing the look on his face, he continued, Konoha believes in the will of fire, and I can see why Sandaime Hokage believes in you, but he was wrong when he called it the will of fire. In you is a will of the storm, strong, powerful, destructive, controlled, and deceptively stealthy when needed. I thank you, Master, and I am honored by your trust in me, he said, but I cannot accept this responsibility because I am not as great as you would like to believe, and as it is, I am too well known and not smart enough to be the head of the order. Hearing this, the group fell silent for a moment before the old man burst out laughing. I expected you to say that, and now I am even more convinced that you are the best choice, Naruto asked. You are far smarter than you give yourself credit for, Naruto-kun, I made sure of it. You are by far the most powerful ninja on the continent. You have proven that you are also strong, or you would have been destroyed by that power. You are intelligent enough to control your strength. And you are wise enough to know when to make the right decisions despite your intelligence. You have a loyal personality and a spirit that can turn any heart. But, above all, you are humble, which is probably the most important quality a ninja and a leader must have, and you have Naruto-kun, and there is no better leader among my three disciples for this. I see, Naruto said as Master Kyoshi struggled to finish his speech, then I shall restore the ancient order to its former greatness. I have no doubt about this, he said as a series of coughs rattled his body, but now. He struggled for a moment, then turned around and, with the assistance of Akira, was able to stand as he led them outside the house to a cave with a large boulder blocking the entrance. A large yin-yang symbol was carved into the surface of the boulder. A tiger and a dragon were placed on their respective sections of the symbol in such a way that they appeared to be stalking each other. Master Kyoshi performed a few hand seals and watched as the tiger and dragon appeared to come to life and stalked each other for a few seconds before dissolving into what appeared to be a list of names. Avert your gaze, Hinata and Akira, for only the next leader may see the names of the former leaders of the ancient way, he said, and when they turned away, he continued quietly, these, Naruto, are all my predecessors, former masters of the order, and now it is your turn to sign your name. After saying this, he placed his fingers on the list, which appeared to sink into the rock. Jinta Kyoshi is the shortened version of the names. Master Kyoshi bit his finger and drew Naruto's name in blood over his own. The name of Master Kyoshi faded away, leaving Naruto's name glowing red. Rewrite your name in your own blood, and then place your fingers over it when it turns green. Naruto followed the instructions, and when he was finished, the boulder shifted to the side, revealing a dark cave. Master Kyoshi led them inside, and after a few minutes of walking downhill, they arrived at a large antechamber with paths leading in all directions. After selecting one, they came to a large door. He then addressed his 3 students. Despite our small number, the ancient Shinobi Order was and continues to be the most powerful entity in the Shinobi world for one reason: knowledge. He pushed open the door, which opened surprisingly easily despite his ailing condition. Behold, the records of the ages, collected from the dawn of Shinobi itself and collected by the Order ever since the first ninja. The large library and collection of books, scrolls, tablets, and tomes awed Naruto, Akira, and Hinata. The room was enormous. This is only the history portion of our collection. Everything that happened is compiled here, he said as his legs gave out from under him and Naruto held him up. In the other rooms, are techniques and weapons collected over the ages as well as trophies from the more known, or less known, shinobi that made a difference. Naruto escorted Master Kyoshi to the library's entrance. Now, my students, it is almost time, he murmured, let us return to the house so that I may. Please forgive me, wait master, Naruto said as he handed the old man over to Hinata and performed a few hand seals. No jutsu for Kuchiyose. The old man watched Naruto with interest until the smoke cleared, only to see a toad, one that was larger than most normal toads, but from what he knew of the Toad clan, he knew that this one, despite being very old, was insignificant in comparison. The old toad looked around, and when he saw the books and then Naruto in a formal kimono, he became perplexed. Why have you summoned me, Naruto-chan? And who are these people? The shadow of death is dark on the old one, he inquired. So, this is a toad of the Toad clan, Master Kyoshi said, forcing himself to stand straight and bow, and it is a pleasure to meet you. Master Kyoshi, please allow me to introduce Fukasaku-sama, one of the great sages of Myobokuzen, Naruto said before turning to face the toad. Fukasaku-sama, please allow me to introduce Master Jinta Kyoshi, 12,984th Master of the Ancient Shinobi Way, and my predecessor, Fukasaku-sama said. Oh, I see, the old toad said, hopping over to the old man. It is quite an honor to meet one who is not only capable, but brave enough to steal from the toads and get away with it. Ha ha ha. Yes, the record spoke of that day, the old man said. It was one of our greatest achievements, though we lost many, but it had to be expected when facing opponents such as yourself. You honor us with your words, Master Jinta Kyoshi, the toad said with a bow, which demonstrated his respect for people like Jiraiya and Sarutobi, and since Naruto here will be the next leader of the order and would be my student, Then I propose an alliance between our people. I thank you, great sage. Even though Naruto is my successor, the torch is not fully passed until light leaves my eyes, so, as my final act as leader of the ancient shinobi way, I agree to your offer. But there is one thing I would like to know before my eyes close, the toad asked, tilting his head in curiosity. That is simple, the old toad explained. Even before the time of chakra, your people were far greater in all aspects than any other human, and when you stole the secrets to chakra from us, we were surprised at your audacity, but impressed by the skill shown. But when you were actually able to learn, we were shocked again. But the deciding factor was in young Naruto-chan and, from what I can sense, Hinata-chan as well. Naruto and Hinata raised it's not finished, but you figured out how to gather it while moving without turning into stone. That has impressed us more than anything else, and as a result, the great sage has agreed to not only form an alliance with the ancient shinobi order, but also to appoint you over the remaining secrets of chakra, the final stage you could not achieve, senjutsu. I am humbled beyond words, Fukasaku-sama, and I hope that our bond will become stronger than any brotherhood, he said before turning to Naruto and saying, Naruto-kun, my strength is almost gone. Transport us to my room. Naruto nodded and used Kagesachi to transport himself and the others back to the house, where he positioned Master Kyoshi on his futon. Akira-chan, come forward. Akira said as he knelt, you have finished your training under me, and as such, you are now worthy of being a member of the ancient order, and as such, I give you this gift, use it wisely. Akira exclaimed as Master Kyoshi handed her a cloth-wrapped object that revealed itself to be a polished wooden flute. Master, I am honored that you saw fit to bestow this upon me, but my talent with sound genjutsu or ability to play it is not as good as Naruto or Kun's Hinata-chan's. That is correct, but not because you can't, he explained as he took a deep breath. Your problem was that you couldn't let go. You bottled up your feelings like a caged animal, trapped in a soundless and lightless room. While you must not allow it to control you, you have learned to accept it in the events that brought it upon you. Otherwise, it would have consumed you and you would have become like countless other ninja who fell prey to themselves rather than their enemies. All ninja are stalked by the beast of emotion, but I've taught you three that the key to taming it is releasing it. So, my former student, please play one more time for me so that this room may be filled with the sweet fruits of your labor and the passions of your heart. And when I'm gone, I'd like for each of you to play for me at least once a year, and I'll hear you from the other side. As you wish, Master, Akira said, bringing the flute to her lips and beginning to play as tears streamed down her cheeks. She sang a soft song that captured the hearts of everyone in the room. With each note, it was as if your soul was lifted from your body and drifted gently across the fluffy blue skies, while your body stood transfixed in place, as if a willing victim of Akira's melody. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when she was finished. The beauty of her playing captivated even the old toad. How was that, Master? She inquired, but when she received no response, she turned to face him, his eyes closed and a small smile on his face, and said, Thank you, Master, you shall be honored for as long as we all may live. While Naruto laid Master Kyoshi to rest, Hinata, Akira, and Fukasaku left the house, and when he was finished, the toad hopped up to him. I know you just lost someone dear to you, but you must not delay. Your training must begin now. I understand, he said, turning to Hinata and Akira, and as we agreed, Hinata will take over while I am away. I also require you to do something else for me. Who or what is Naruto-kun? Hinata inquired. I promised Jugo that I would help him with his problem, Naruto began, and Hinata nodded her head, but he is now at a critical stage in his training, and he needs to confront it. But beware, his dark side, like mine, has a real source of power and may lash out in the real world. He cannot physically harm himself, but this is the same method used on us. I understand Naruto-kun, Hinata said, kissing him on the lips to silence him, and I know what to do, so hurry up and start your training. The storm will be well managed. As Hinata and Akira used Kagesachi no Jutsu to teleport back to the storm, Naruto smiled at his bride-to-be before turning to Master Kyoshi. Alright, I'm ready. With that, the old toad vanished, and Naruto followed suit in a puff of smoke. He was in a place with plants the size of houses before he knew it. I hope you've prepared yourself, Naruto-chan, because this is the final stage of your senjutsu training. Hidan and Kakuzu stood across from the Hachibi Jinchuriki. They were wary of him. Well, Kakuzu was wary of him while Hidan cursed incoherently after having his religion insulted in a poor excuse for rap by the hulking, dark Jinchuriki. Stay out of this, Kakuzu, Hidan said, charging at the still Jinchuriki with his scythe at the ready. This fucking son of a bitch is mine. Remember Hidan, Kakuzu said flatly, we need him alive. Whatever, Hidan replied. He was now within striking distance and lashed out with his scythe repeatedly. However, this Jinchuriki was extremely skilled and easily avoided all of Hidan's strikes. This only enraged the Jashin fanatic, causing him to double his efforts, and after a strike that came dangerously close to drawing blood, Killer Bee stopped and extended his hand, causing Hidan to come to an abrupt halt. Killer Bee, on the other hand, produced a notepad and placed his finger in his mouth, coating it in ink. He then scribbled something in his book as Kakuzu and Hidan looked on, perplexed. Unbelievable, Kakuzu said dryly, a tinge of sarcasm in his tone, he's taking notes in the middle of a battle. Killer Bee glanced over his notes before smiling and putting the notepad away. You gave me an idea with a ring, so I'm going to give you a taste of Da Killer Bee sting as a thank you. With that, he thrust his swords into the ear, causing both Hidan and Kakuzu to brace themselves, Kakuzu less so than Hidan. Killer then caught each of the blades in various corners of his body, such as the inside of his elbow joint, his teeth, the inside of his knee joint, and the inside of his wrist joint, in an unusual fighting stance. Hidan was enraged at being ignored and insulted, while Kakuzu watched with mild interest. Hidan charged in blindly at the charging Kumo Junin, but was rudely awakened when he began to move in an unpredictable manner towards the charging immortal. Hidan was dismembered as a result, with his arms, legs, and head neatly cut off. This might be more difficult than I anticipated. Kakuzu pondered.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.